The relationships you have with wholesalers and agents is what's going to grow your business. Finding the deals is a skill set, really. I mean, if you're a good deal finder, then you're going to just want to be tethered to people that are good closers, that are good operators in the marketplace.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening in to this episode of Purpose Driven Investment Podcast. I'm your host, Shinyi Telscher. This is a podcast we talk about strategy, learn from each other, and create returns that matter. Today, I have my friend Jason Staine with me today.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Well, thank you for joining me today, Jason. I know we're still juggling a few things. I literally just finished my day job today, and you also have a whole bunch of other things you're trying to taking care of, and you still find time to dial in. So I'm very appreciated.
Thank you for having me. When was the last time we saw each other? It was your meetup.
You literally bring a door.
Yep, bring
We
your
call
own.
this event BYOD, bring your own door. And we did a master class of door knocking.
Absolutely. So much fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and people were still talking about it, and everybody was like, oh my God, that's such a great meetup. I don't know how you find this guy. They just kind of so spontaneously, also hilariously presenting the top.
The door changes the whole aspect of role play.
I'm so excited for you to join me today because I wanted to take some time to introduce you to our client, because there are a lot of people out there doing fix and flip, and there are people who are doing it very successfully. There are people doing it a very traditional way, but then you have a unique way of doing your business. But before we dive into that, I'm going to introduce you to our audience to kind of set the tone how you started, and that led to where you are today.
Sure. So similar to Ace's story and really so many other contractors that are in our group, I'm an electrical contractor by trade. I got into the union in New Jersey 22 years ago. So back in 2003, when the recession hit in '08, I was laid off quite a bit. And eventually I found myself traveling around the US looking for work in the union. I got tired of it, tired of not being home, missing out on important events with the family. So I decided to pursue my own electrical contracting business. So I went and got my license and opened up shop. Who do you work for when you're an electrical contractor? You work for people who buy real estate. A few years into that, started asking some real probing questions from the people I was working for. How do you find this stuff? The first things that any new person starts asking, how do you find these houses? How do you buy them? Some of the people you're working for, you find that they're buying them every other week. They're having a closing. And literally like every other week, you're like, all right. And they don't know anything about construction like I do. So you start to realize that maybe it's not your construction knowledge. I like to say like you had to develop a different skill set to get into this business, to have some successes in this business.
Wow, that's very interesting because you have electrical contracting background. Are you an electrician?
Yes.
Okay, so you're an electrician by trade, and you start noticing, oh, wait, there are a lot of people buying houses and flipping houses as a real business. That gets your brain start turning, wait, why can't I also do that? And those people are not exactly smarter than me, and they don't have construction experience.
Yeah. And I attribute, and a lot of people attribute flipping houses to like, you got to know what type of stud you need to install here, or flooring or plumbing or HVAC. You should have, I think, in my opinion, have a baseline of knowledge, especially if you're overseeing the project yourself. But really, it's your team, right? I mean, that's in Owners Club, we're developing teams to work alongside each other to go out and bring different strengths. I have a strong construction background, but I also have a lot of financial knowledge too. So I mix the two together. I'm a pretty lethal force, like going into a deal. And then you start to cherry pick the things you don't want to do. I don't want to work as an electrician. So I get asked all the time, oh, do you wire up your own houses? Absolutely not. I don't even want to wire up my own electrical jobs when I get jobs. You hire.
You know where we go wrong, like, because you have the knowledge to spread out.
Yeah, I could do it better. I could do it myself. And you have to step back and you hire people. You hire other electricians to come work under your license. Well, you buy a house. Yeah. Could I paint? Yeah. Should I paint? No, probably not. Right. I should focus on managing the money that's been loaned to me to do the project, and then bring the subs in and make sure the job's being done on time and within the budget.
I see. So you're leaning onto this concept of who, not how. Even I have a knowledge, but you don't. Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Find out the person who can do it faster, and value your time more than the money that you're getting paid. So that's how you started, right? When was that?
I got my license in 2013. I just observed other people doing deals for like 3-4 years. I went to an event in summer of 2017. It was like a 3-day event. And from there, I was just like blown away. Right? I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I wouldn't close my first deal, like wholesale deal, for nearly 2 years after that event. I was stuck on the information cycle. We get exposed to these things, and then we have a path, right? We can take action or we can study. I studied and studied and studied. And then overthought everything. My wife and I spent, true story, we spent 6 weeks trying to decide what to call our LLC, right?
Then what's
Like,
the end?
like no one cares what your LLC is called. Like
Right.
no one cares. Like it's like, where's the money going? Give me the routing number and the account number, and that's it, right? Like we overthought everything. We started doing some postcards and things like that back in, this is 17 and 18. I went to a meetup, I want to say towards the tail end of 2018, and I met a wholesaler. His name is Jordan. The meetup would do like a real cool thing. It was a round table. Everyone at the round table got a minute to do their elevator pitch and talk about their business and things they need. I was so nervous, right? Like it was like, this is before I ever stepped in front of a microphone and all these other things like I do on YouTube and Instagram. After I said we were looking to wholesale, Jordan approached myself and my wife and said, "Well, I'm expanding my marketing into a couple other counties in New Jersey and I could use boots on the ground." And I was like, "I'm in, let's do it." He was running a pay-per-click campaign. He would push the leads to our phones. I credit him with showing me how to even talk to sellers because I didn't know what the process was like. And I listened to him on live seller calls, same way like we do in Sub 2. There's so much live action that you could learn from. And then I adopted somewhat of a sales process. And then he would push the leads and then we would set the appointments. We would go on the appointment and then make the offers. And it was 2 weeks after we started with him that we were under contract on our first deal.
Well, so it's an inbound lead.
Inbound lead, yeah, paid per click.
Right, but I was told, at least, my understanding inbound lead is that a lot of time when you're doing inbound lead, you have to really spend a lot of money on advertising.
Oh,
So when you have to identify the seller that are motivated to even allow you to call them, and they will respond for you to set an appointment.
this is true.
Right, so he was the one who dumping all the advertisement money. And
So
you
it was
just
like,
on the ground.
yeah, so he was like, "I'll fund the marketing, you go on the appointment." And he handled all the dispo. So he did all the things that we didn't understand. When the contract would get sent out, I was like, wow, he got signed. That was quick. I would go out and do all the reconnaissance. I would be the guy crawling in the crawl spaces of the houses, getting pictures, getting video, building rapport with the seller. Now, building rapport with the seller is so important because they have to feel comfortable that they're working with the right people. So what I did is I adopted the way I would go on my estimates as a contractor. I would treat my appointments similar to like that. Like I would show up, introduce myself, build some rapport, commonalities with the owner, figure out what their problem is. And then they would give me a tour of the property. So when I'm getting the tour of the property, we're just having conversation. I had all this knowledge. So I knew what the house needed work wise. And I was able to report that back to Jordan and say, hey, this is what I think needs to go into the property. This is what I think it's going to cost. And then we could kind of figure out the end value and the entry. And we would successfully go on to wholesale quite a few contracts.
I see. So then when you show up, you basically introduce yourself as a potential buyer?
No, I would just say we work with a team of people. Sometimes I would explain to them, like, again, it's know your audience. Sometimes we sell the houses before closing. Sometimes we sell the houses after closing and just kind of not getting into the weeds with the process of assignment. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, we're going to bring a bunch of money partners and contractors into the house for an hour and a half. And they're going to see if they want to partner with or possibly take over the project. Does that make sense?
I see. That makes sense. So you basically open all the possibilities. Like I might be buying it, or my partner might be buying it, or I might shop this around to other potential buyer who will buy this house.
It achieved a couple things. Number one, I could gauge whether or not they're going to let 30 people show up, right? Because if they're like, absolutely, we don't want anyone else coming in, then we'd have to take a different approach to the contract. But if they're like, yeah, sure, when do you want to come back? Like, great. How's next Friday at 2 p.m. sound? And we would always pick weekdays because we wanted to get the full-time investors and their team of people coming in. We didn't want to get 9-to-5ers that are like tire kickers and not serious. We really just wanted to get in and out that, hey, they have contractors, they're buying, they're actively buying, they would send it in. There's a lot of other wholesalers that would come in and try and do reconnaissance as well. And then they would send, like, we would play a game with the daisy chainers, like Jordan and I, we would send the deal out. And then we would call each other at the end of the day and say, who sent the deal back to us? Our own deal will come back to us literally within 45 minutes at higher numbers. No disrespect to the daisy chainers. They've helped us get buyers in the past too, but it was always funny. You always look at that and you chuckle.
I know, it's funny. Like, it's a small industry as well. Unfortunately, a lot of people who wanted to wedge in not so smart way to wedge in there. Yeah, they want to get a piece, but you guys are the one who's on the contract with the seller, right?
Yeah.
So
I always like being direct to the seller. And then sometimes we would bring dispositions at that point. Like I would reach out to newer wholesalers that couldn't sell the contract And then I would go to Jordan and we would just pinpoint one or two key buyers that would take a deal down and just move the contract along. So we were able to partner up with a couple of people and get those done as well.
That's awesome. So then contracting as an electrician now to a full-time fix and flip. I guess at some point you transition out of Jordan's business and start your own.
Yeah, Jordan eventually stopped running his own marketing campaign. Like you said, PPC is very expensive. And then I started my own marketing campaign as he kind of faded out of the business. And then my wife and I continued to pursue private money opportunities, wholesale opportunities, and our own fix and flip opportunities. It wasn't really until the beginning of 2025, end of 2024, that I would say that I'm full time in real estate. To this day, I still have some electrical contracting that comes in, but I sub it out. I don't put the tools on very often, and I want to keep it that way. So the focus is fix and flip, and that's the full-time gig.
So when you decide to transition out and start your own, did you start with the PPC, the expensive way, or you started with a different approach?
We paid someone to monitor and manage everything. So it was expensive, but we found that we were being outspent by the larger competitors in the market. We got leads, but we didn't really monetize the leads as much as we should have. We didn't have a good system of follow-up. I went back and I recalled the leads that we had created during those campaigns. And I found that 30% of the people that I spoke to after I shut the campaign down ended up selling their property probably within 18 to 24 months. So if you're running a campaign right now, don't stop calling, because the likelihood that they're going to sell, or at least 1 out of 3 is going to sell in the next 24 months, is pretty good.
I see. When did you join Sub 2 and then kind of dive into creative side of
I joined Sub 2 in October of 2022. The same thing, like catching all the videos, all the YouTube videos. I'm like,
analysis paralysis?
yeah, I'm like, you know what? I want to learn how to do this creative stuff. We actually had a deal that we offered Sub 2, and we were under contract as a short sale at that point because we couldn't get anything to go Sub 2 in New Jersey with this particular deal. And I was like, you know what? Maybe if I join Sub 2, I'll just learn how to do this, thinking it's like an educational platform. And then I get in here, I'm like, what is all this, right? Like, this is crazy. It's crazy.
So now you know Sub 2, you know short sale. Can you give us a really brief definition, the difference between Sub 2 and the short sale?
Sure. Sub 2 is just simply taking over the mortgage payments that someone else has their name on the mortgage doc. So just step in their shoes, take over their payments. A short sale is going to the bank and saying, I'm offering you less than what's owed on a property, and I need your approval on this offer.
I see. So then certain property will work for the Sub 2 aspect.
Yes.
Basically, it's better term, lower interest rate. It'll be good for Sub 2, right?
Yeah.
Low equity or no equity. But when they're underwater, they owe so much that even they try to sell it, what's currently owed was not selling. So you would actually then go to the bank,
Yeah.
went to the bank and say, hey, I can only offer you maybe 80K versus 100K to sell it owed.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even the loan versus the value. Sometimes, like today, I was on a call with a seller in my team. The property's in great shape. They're just underwater. So if I bought this property, maybe there's some deferred maintenance, like a broken light fixture, silly stuff like that. But there would be no renovations to put into the property. They don't have any equity, and they're behind on payments by about, I think, a year. So what do you do with that? And they have a really horrible interest rate, and the monthly payments are really high. So you look at that and you're like, well, Sub 2 doesn't make sense. So to your point, yeah, like you look at Sub 2 and you say, all right, why would I take over these payments? Where is it advantageous for my business?
Yeah, so why would I take over the house if the monthly payment is too high? Even if I try to rent it, I'm not going to make a cash flow. That's usually not a good Sub 2 opportunity. So then you will go with the short sale. What kind of timeline you're looking at when you try to work with the short sale to take that property to the closing? I heard it was usually not a fast process.
Oh, it should be called a long sale, right? Like
Right, it's not short at all.
it's not short at all. The one that is pending right now for approval, we finally got like really good movement from the bank in the last 48 hours. So I'm told that I get a short sale approval letter Monday, Tuesday next week. That property we put under contract in February. So we're getting almost to October right now.
And then they need to come inspect the property as well,
They
right?
send someone out to appraise it, yeah. So they send someone out to appraise it back in the spring. This was a very complicated one too. Every single one of them is different, as you know. I mean, Sub 2,
Right.
every distress situation has its uniqueness. But Yeah, short sales are not, it could be 2 months, it could be a year, you
So
know?
what play here, you're gonna buy a short sale based on the lower price that the bank approve it and then turn it into fix and flip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And for us, we'll just flip the properties. And again, market specific. We're buying 400 and $500,000 flips in North Jersey. And then there's still equity to be had after that. So this particular one we're acquiring in the high 300s with an exit in the high fives. But we're going to put 75K into it, 80K into it,
That's
you
a
know.
good spread.
And we got to work fast. Flipping properties, and this is something that we've picked up recently. Less is more. A lot of times in the beginning, especially when we were first making offers, my wife and I, we would over improve. If you look at the MLS, people buy lived-in homes every day, and they pay full retail for it. When you're flipping, I mean, it's great to have like this shiny, glossy project to kind of present to the marketplace. But are you making the same margin if you did less versus over improving and saying, "Hey, look at me"? I don't care about the end result as much as if the margin's the same. You could open up walls and end up with a nightmare, or you can repair the things that need to be repaired rather than tearing down walls and opening up beams and getting into structural heavy work. And you're like, you know what? This house works the way it is. Maybe I just need to put a new kitchen in and update the bathrooms and make sure it has central air.
It's all about smart renovation. I always tell people like if you don't want to be the one who is setting the comp, the high comp in that
Yes.
community, that means you're spending too much money. You're often probably not going to get that return of investment if you're over renovating it.
Yeah, we only want that by accident, like a bidding war, right? And the same thing on the selling side, there's an art to getting the traffic into the house. The listing price is one for sure. People don't fall in love with a house until they look at the price. That's like the barrier entry. And then the other thing is, what's the presentation look like? When people go to Zillow or whatever site they go on, you have a nice rendering of the front. Now, maybe it's not apples to apples, like rendering wise, but people are like, I like the price. Look at the rendering, right? I can see myself pulling into that driveway. Now, when we bring people in for a nice solid open house, even in the market that we're in, which has some challenges geographically, 10 or 20 people show up to an open house at the same time on Sunday, on opening day. They're like, okay, we should make a decision pretty quick here. You know, it's a game of speed. Every day that you're holding that loan is interest.
It's all cost.
Can't go backwards. We could always go forward. So if there's something that I didn't do to a property, we call the buyers and we're like, hey, well, what would change your impression of the property and get an offer on the table? They might say something like, well, if the property had this, and like, you know what, we were thinking of doing that. What if we gave you a credit and kind of split the difference, right? There's different ways we could approach it.
That's very smart. So you're still selling it. You take a little bit of discount, but that you save the money from leaving the house on market for too long because every single day that's on market, you're
Yeah.
paying more interest. Paying
And
more
we didn't have to put the money out of our pocket. We have a coach locally, and there's a property that went way above ask, didn't even have central air. And I was asking about the central air thing because I'm big on that.
Why Central Area?
I mean, I love central air. So when my head, whenever I'm rehabbing a property, again, we tend to think how we would like it versus
Mhm.
the market. He's like, well, I didn't put central air in because I would have to tear open a lot of plaster to get the ducting in. I was like, we'll try to sell it without. And he's like, massively above asking. I said, well, what would you have done if you got a request for central? He's like, well, I could have just issued a credit, or I could have gotten their offers at a certain number, and then we would have just put the central air in. But they didn't put the money out of my pocket, which would have been about 15 grand, and they still bought the house without. And they're like, we'll just put it in after because everything else in the house is immaculate. It's a little bit of a gamble, I guess, but you didn't have to put the 15 grand out up front. Because what if they didn't want to buy the house for the higher value and you still put the 15 grand out?
Especially you already have an offer on the table that they can just buy as is, and everything else is just icing on the cake, in my opinion. And it's all negotiable.
You have to remove the emotional part, like I'm going to live here in the flipping game.
Not the house that you like, it's the
Yeah.
house that the buyer wants.
Yeah. What do I need to do to make sure this thing is mortgageable, clean, and smells good, and people can picture
Yeah.
themselves living there?
Do you have a full team?
We're trying to get out of the one-man band operation, but my wife's a big part of the back office. I don't like to deal with all the emails with the attorneys on the purchases. She'll get all the documents together. She'll make sure all the communication is done with the attorneys. She lists all the flips that we do. So she handles all of that. I go out and I hunt, as we call it. I go out and I hunt. I look for the deals. I'll get the capital for the deals. I'll figure out the construction detail, and then I'll manage the projects. Because I'm in the trades, like I have subs that I trust I could go to, and I could kind of delegate and then walk away. I don't need to hover. For the most part, we're still a very small operation. I do have someone cold calling for us now on follow-up. We're basically working with people that are just feeding us leads, like bird dogs and agent and wholesalers. We just build relationships, and we try to do a couple transactions a year with the same people.
That's actually smart. You save a lot of advertising money, and these are people feeding new lead. You just focus on underwriting, find a project that makes sense for your team, and you're very strategic about what project to take on.
Yep.
and that will make sure that you're profitable.
I will say this much, as the volume of leads continues to increase, the buy box thing has just been incredible. It's just like a machine. I will need to start incorporating some people into the operations to handle the inbound information, to kind of start pulling data. I spend a lot more time underwriting than I actually do on outreach, which is good and bad at the same time. So
Right.
I want to make sure I'm not creating new bottlenecks within my business.
Right. It might be something that you can ask another staff to underwrite, and you just go out, take on an appointment.
And to add to that, same through doing rehabs, you do 2 or 3 rehabs at the same time. Anyone can tell you, if you don't have a project manager and you're managing that yourself, now you're just a GC. So
Correct.
you got peaks and valleys in your business that you have to kind of foresee before you get there. We have a couple of rehabs going at the same time, which is coming for us. Can I just get a project manager for maybe a flat rate to manage those projects for a period of time versus me being there constantly? Another thing that we're going to start incorporating, which Diego Torriello from North Cal does, he puts QR codes in all the rooms in the houses from the renovations. And those QR codes go right to a Google Forms link. So what color is this room going to be? Rather than fielding 10 phone calls from 10 different subs, everything you need to know about this project, down to the nut, bolt, the handles, is on that QR code. So as
That
long
is
as that
oh my god,
yeah,
hold on. That is so smart. So you
no,
basically
I didn't come up with
barcode.
it.
That is so smart. Okay, this is the first time I heard people doing it. So you barcode each individual space,
Yeah.
and then people can scan it and just exactly know, okay, this is where I need to use lavender color, this faucet, and all that.
Yeah. Everything,
Whoa.
right? And you can have pictures, clouds, right? You name it. However elaborate you want to go with the plan. So I know from experience, like as an electrical contractor, I should have been doing that on these projects years ago because I tell you, like the silliness of the phone calls, people ask me, do you want the outlets up or down? Grounds up or grounds down? Why are you calling me, asking me
I
these?
know.
Every time you field a phone call that can simply just be answered by planning and delegating, what does it do? Your brain has to reset. You have to pivot. Every time you change direction, you lose an hour. If I go out and walk a bunch of houses and I come back to my office, it takes me an hour to settle and reset and get into the emails or underwriting or something else. It's not like I could just flip a switch. So every time you get those calls, it knocks you off your course.
Yeah, there's a transition time that a lot of time people don't realize that. Well, human brain doesn't click on and off that quickly. I've noticed even for myself, if I'm on it, go, 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 go from one thing to another, and I start getting into this very impatient mode, my husband really just called me out yesterday. Okay, I just need your 30-second like attention, and then he will start saying something less than 10 seconds. Like, okay, where is this going? Like,
Yeah.
what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
people need time to transition from fast pace to slow pace or thinking differently.
There's only so much space on your hard drive. I learned that at Mastermind. I did my hot seat, right? And I tell everyone, like, if you listen to my hot seat, I sound like a scatterbrain. I was working out of the hole full time still. I was fixing and flipping. I was subcontracting my electrical contracting business. We were still doing private money deals. And I have a life insurance license. I was still doing life insurance cases all at the same time. Only so much space on the hard drive. So since Owners Club, for me, it's been a process of what's serving me, what's not serving me anymore. What are the things I want to do? What are the things I should not be doing anymore? And the things I shouldn't be doing anymore, how do I phase them out or sub them out? My clarity has been night and day's difference this year versus years past. Like I fix and flip. When people ask me what I do, primarily I tell them I fix and flip in North Jersey. That's the primary focus.
Right.
We do some private money. We just did a loan in Ohio. We did a loan with a wholesaler in North Jersey back in July. Tricky situation. We solved it. And then we do life insurance still. And then I sub my electrical work out because I don't want to work with the tools anymore.
Sounds like you're narrowing down to fix and flip.
Yeah.
You're doing private money lending. I want to touch on these two because especially the fix and flip. There's a smart way of doing fix and flip, getting the great lead and you make more money. And these are usually the people who are able to find off-market lead and especially a special niche. So I've noticed you mentioned about the short sale. I know you can also do a little bit pre-foreclosure. That's when you came to my town, talk about how to door knock. But you also shared with me that you recently have a deal that is probate lead and that turned out to be a really good project. We kind of do a deep dive a little bit on that one. How did the deal come to your table? And
Actually, someone is sub two. Someone's mom was an agent working with a probate attorney, heard he was in real estate and told him they have a problem property and they need to find a buyer. His name's Zelko. Zelko went to Dennis Rognoff in South Jersey and said, do you know anyone that buys in North Jersey? And Dennis sent them to me directly. We ended up closing on this deal. It took about 4 months. It was kind of messy. There was a squatter, there was an abandoned oil tank that was leaky, but we dealt with all that, ended up closing. This was the best deal for us. This kind of goes back to knowing the market, knowing your skill set, and picking and choosing your battles. It's a big rehab. It's an old house, 110-year-old house. It would have taken probably 275,000 to rehab the whole house. Massive upside, but I'd probably still be working on it right now. It was an old plaster house. I call it a plaster disaster. It's just one of those things, probably 7 dumpsters to clean out. But we decided, looking at the market and seeing what other people had bought in old condition, we're like, hey, we should just clean this thing out, clear all the debris out of it, throw it on the MLS, deal with the oil tank, and see what happens. We were getting people calling us for nonstop 48 hours. The day we went there to do the clean out, I was actually at Squad Up. My wife called me up. She's like, my phone has.
Remember, that's the one you told me that went under contract less than 48 hours.
It was crazy.
Right. So that was when you told me, okay, I want to know more about the probate situation. How did you get into a probate situation? And how did you figure out the number to realize this is a good deal? I'm looking for like, okay, what is it the value of this and how much you're getting on the contract?
So I stay in my lane. I'd figure out what I want to offer, what I'm going to do to the project. By the time it had been sent to me, the wholesaler had put it under contract with the agent, with the relationship to the probate attorney. So whatever the probate attorney determined, we were like past that already. But I determined the number that the deal made sense. The numbers look like this. Like we paid $495 for it. The contract originally didn't have an environmental clause in it. One of the first things we ask, especially in North Jersey, is like, is there an oil tank buried in the ground? They said they had all this documentation that it was decommissioned. And I'm like, that's fine, but we need to make sure it wasn't leaking before it was decommissioned.
Environmental testing. I bet you they didn't do that. They just
No.
dug it out. Yep.
Nope. So they didn't even dig it out. They just filled it with sand.
Oh.
They cut the top off and they fill it with sand. We asked if we could do a soil test. So they probed the soil with a machine. And I have videos on my YouTube of them probing the soil. But I mean, the first sample they took out of the ground, you could smell like it smelled like diesel fuel. That's a sign, right? We have contamination. So they measure it parts per million, right? To see how much is actually in the ground. The company gives us a cost not to exceed. And then we take that cost and we go to the selling side and we're like, hey, soil is contaminated. We need a credit. They give us the full credit. It was $19,000 to remove the tank and clean the soil up. And not only do we have a wholesale contract, we negotiated a credit through the wholesale contract. But before we can get to that point, we saw the contract, we saw problems with the property, we saw problems with the contract, and the family's brother refused to leave the house. He was living there. So it's not like a squatter, like a tenant, but they had to do an extraction. He left before the sheriffs came to extract him. So we said, we want to do a soil test and we won't take the property until it's vacant. In exchange for that, they said, well, we want a larger earnest money deposit. We'll let you test the soil, but the money won't go non-refundable, go hard until both of those two things are met.
Contingency.
The contingencies are met. So we're like, all right, we'll do it. So we had to put 50 grand down in exchange for those things, but we got to test the soil, we got the credit, and then we waited for the brother to leave, and then we did our appraisal and close. So they wanted to make sure we were serious and committed to buying the property more than anything else.
So when you do an appraisal, what's the appraised price?
Can't remember what it appraised at. It was relatively on par with our purchase price, but the after repair value was lower than what we anticipated. So we had to bring more money in for the down payment. So we did. We brought the larger money down. We closed on it and we decided there was so much interest in this particular home, we should just test the market. It went under contract for 675 grand, 12 days. Like it was like all cash, no contingencies. All you had to do was tear the tank out and they were ready to close on it. It was like,
And is it hard money to close that fast?
yeah, we used hard money. The buyer was liquid. We used hard money to buy it. We raised 100 from private money investors for some gap. 29 days later, we sold the property.
What would you say that if the house is bought and fully renovated, and what's the market value for the house?
We anticipated 1 to 1.1 million.
Ooh, wow, that is a spanking deal. So you basically bought it literally
Like 40 cents on the dollar. Yeah. It would have taken close to 300 grand to construct. It would have taken every ounce of energy I had to renovate an old house like that. So we just said we could make 75 grand in 29 days, or we can go into the trenches and slug it.
right, and then pull your hairs out. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, let's take the 75 and go, right? Because we want to do multiple flips and projects and we don't want to be heavy into one project. Because how many times have I been in the trades working for people that are knee deep in a project that is just, they bit off more than they could chew. And we're like, you know what? This is the move. Let's get out.
It's basically you did a really quick fix and flip, but you were not even fixing it. You're just basically cleaning it up. and
Yeah.
dug out the oil tank and listed on the market.
It
And
might as well just been like a double close at that point, right? Like it's
right. And your wife probably list the property for you as well, right?
of course. Yeah.
Husband and wife team.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
That is fantastic. I know you also involve your kids in the business. Are they
Mhm.
currently in the business?
Yep.
How are they?
My son's 14, so we're kind of exposing him to these financial concepts that he's not going to get exposed to in public school, right? It's just not going to happen.
Right.
He was in Montana. He was my plus one at the events. My wife stayed back with my daughter. My daughter was still too young. He went to Jerry Norton's house, loves that house. He's like, asked me a million questions. He's like, Jerry bought this house because he does real estate. And then we're talking about, Pace's Ranch. And we were at Pace's Ranch and the same thing. I'm like, yeah, Pace bought this house creatively with no banks. And he's like amazed at all this stuff. So what he does for us now in our business is driving for dollars. He pedals around town and he texts me addresses, or if he's driving with my wife somewhere, constantly a flow of addresses. And we run SMS campaigns and cold call campaigns on those, driving for dollars addresses. On the fix and flip projects, he'll come in, he'll help make decisions. We'll get him involved in the process of seeing the projects from start to finish. So he gets familiar with it. We show him the numbers. He understands a great deal. He's done the entire Astro flipping module program, so he understands wholesaling very well.
Will be your underwriter.
He's a
See
shy
what's
kid, though.
happening. Yes.
He's definitely not going to be the ones hitting the phones,
Yeah,
but
but underwriting on the
the
if on the
underwriting.
computer, he can knock it out of the
Right.
park.
And that's we're showing them the ropes. My daughter, same thing. She's just into the real estate, like the whole process. She loves the stuff. So again, just exposing them and letting them know like there's options for your business if you choose these other paths.
That's wonderful to hear. Any tips and tricks that you can share with our audience how they're able to hunt for the off-market deal?
How to find and fund.
Yeah, off-market deal. I think that's where a lot of time, a lot of on-market deal, just not enough money to make as a fix and flip project. So a lot of fix and flip I've seen now turn into a full-on business. They are all very knowledgeable when it comes to hunt for off-market deal. Any advice that you can share?
There's so many avenues. I like when Johnny Mack, I always give him credit for this, direct to relationship. The relationships you have with wholesalers and agents is what's going to grow your business. Finding the deals is a skill set, really. I mean, if you're a good deal finder, then you're going to just want to be tethered to people that are good closers, that are good operators in the marketplace. We were good deal finders and we're morphing into good operators in the marketplace. So when people hear that you're a good operator in your marketplace, by default, the business is just going to flow to you. And with the business that flows to you, anytime you have a good deal, you can raise the capital. But it's, again, your network and building that pipeline up where I have a good deal, I have a good relationship with a hard money lender, I have some private money backers that want to fund the projects, and I closed. Everyone got paid. My wholesalers got paid. My agents got paid. My attorneys got paid. My title company got paid. And I make sure I pay back my private money investors and my hard money investors. And I'm a good operator. And that's if you program your brain to think that way, by default, people are just going to send you stuff. You want to be like the first name that comes to mind when they think of your geographic area, or at least in the runnings of like the top three.
Right. So you want to be branded as a very successful fix and flipper who turn around a lot of projects and you know a bunch of people in your market. That's the key. I love how you focus on doing business in your market because that's how you build a personal relationship. You meet this agent, meet this wholesaler. There's just a difference with meeting people over the Zoom versus to shake their hand in person.
It's huge. And to do stuff in your backyard is powerful because you live there. I mean, a lot of people do stuff all over the place, like all over, all different markets. They never see the deal, right? I envy that because if I can make that kind of money and never have to go and see it and touch it, that means that I'm really in that investor driver's seat. I look locally at where my skill set is, my stress level. I desire to be on the project looking at it. I look at other people that are successful in my local market. And I'm like, well, if they're successful, I could be successful too. I just copy and paste what works. I used to overthink everything. And I'm like, all right, how do you fund a deal? Where do you get the money from? I think back to all the things that prevented us from closing transactions that we should have closed, that we wholesale. And I'm like, what were we doing? And I see a lot of other people kind of stuck in that same cycle of, I don't know if I should, I don't know if I can. And the truth is, anytime I wire money out, I'm not 100% confident. I'm always like, oh man, I hope I didn't screw this one up. There's always a part of me that has that. Should I second guess myself? If you're not doing that, you're overconfident. I would say that maybe you should pull back a little bit. But if you're not confident to go and pursue a deal, you kind of got to nail down why you're not pursuing the deal. Is it
Being
knowledge?
fear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it personal fear or just definitely I see you progress since the very first time I see you versus the last few years. You now learn to move fast. You don't second doubt yourself as much. My wire the money still feel, oh my God, what am I doing? This might go bad, but you did it and anyway. I think that's difference. A lot of people who are successful, they just learn to overcome that.
Yeah. You know what really causes me stress? And this is going to sound weird, but it's funny. I worry that I actually wired the money to the right place versus
Oh my God, you still
like like the last wire we did.
right.
Like my wife's like, I'm a little nervous about this one. I'm like, yeah, I'm nervous. I wired the money to the right place more so than the deal.
Okay, was that the title company? It doesn't go to personal pocket.
Oh no, we go to title or attorney. We don't do direct to accounts.
Right.
Golden rules.
Golden rule, don't go to individual person, go to attorneys or title companies, escrow.
Yeah.
Let's just, before we close on it, let's talk about how to verify that. So what are the right things to do people have to do before they wire their account? How did you verify with that place to make sure this is the right account I'm wiring money to?
Most of the time, you'll get wiring instructions emailed to you. I suggest have them emailed to you and have them text message to you. Let's say someone hacked your email and created some means of which emails are just forwarded. Well, if there's this set of wiring instructions in your inbox, I don't know, let's just say they somehow changed the wiring instructions and sent it over to you and you weren't looking at the right one or you were distracted. So many things can happen. And there's so many stories where people have wired to the wrong place and they can't recover it. I call in, I go through it number by number by number. And then it's always best like, hey, can you just text me like a screenshot of the paper to make sure? Because it's really hard for hackers to get into your text message.
Yes.
Email is really easy. So, I mean, those are like basics.
That's the key. I want to stop a second to kind of nail down a little bit because the email can be hacked and a lot of people are very good at generating email that look alike.
Yes.
They even fake the email. Spelling is almost the same with a little bit difference of number or spelling. That can all be hacked. But the key is you actually call them.
Yeah.
And you call the number, not the number that they send it to you via email. You call the number that you can actually search by yourself. Usually people go on to Google and search for that business, make sure that's his business legitimate website. And
So important. Yeah.
call
Dude,
that number. You look for the number yourself and call that number, not the
100%.
number that was given it to you.
Even go on Street View and make sure they actually exist. Like I've
Right.
done
Street
out of
View.
state deals and I'm like, is this actually an attorney or someone pretending to be an attorney? Let's
Pretending.
go on Street View. All right, look, there's their office. Okay. All right, they have a physical location. Yeah, physical location is so important. I don't know if I would even wire money out unless I knew there was a physical location. I would be very skeptical.
Right. And you took it one step further. That's what I love about it, is that you even have them text you back. So if you have them text you back, it's very similar to like nowadays a lot of two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Text you back right on the spot. And you can actually see the geotag of that picture as well. I sometimes go into the picture. Is it geotag to that location? And you can also check that. So it's a multiple layer. It must be a big check. That's why you're so nervous.
Even if it's a little trap, like it says back here, never lose money. It doesn't matter if it's
Lose
$100
money.
or $100,000. Losing money is losing money. We do a mixture of private money, gap funding, and some smaller first position loans. We recently did a deal in New Jersey. There's like a law with the tax liens. If you're into the tax liens, once a tax lien investor starts the foreclosure process, you have to get permission from the tax lien investor's side to pay the lien off. So you can't just go down to the city and say, hey, I see there's a tax lien, we'll catch it up so I can sell the property. You have to get permission. And this particular plaintiff, it took like 4 months to get permission to pay this tax lien off. And every day that this tax lien's there, they're losing equity. And the reasoning behind, I use reasoning very loosely because politicians make laws that sometimes think they're beneficial, but they're not. They plan to kind of prevent us from acquiring properties for pennies on the dollar without getting permissions through the court system. Because, you know, a lot of times we're buying these properties 40 cents on the dollar. In this case, the estate that owned the property did not have the money to pay the tax lien off. It was a $54,000 tax lien when we loaned this money out. When we first started communicating with the plaintiff, it was only 43 grand. And this is over 4.5 months. So they lost 10 grand in equity over 4.5 months because we needed to get permission to pay the lien off.
Who put the liens on it? How did they buy it? Like, is it another investor? Is it, hey, they owe on taxes, I'm going to pay it for them and then step in as a lien holder?
You know, the township creates the lien for unpaid taxes, water and sewer, and then they sell the tax certificate at the tax sale every year. And there's an investor that scooped it up. So the investor in New Jersey, it's 3 years. After 3 years, you can start the foreclosure. Well, this investor started the foreclosure.
Trigger them to do something about it, otherwise they're going to lose the house.
Yeah, so now we can't just step in and pay it off. So we had to go to the court and say, they said either the estate or such and such investor can make the payment. So we did is we wired money into title. Again, wire money into title. So there was a wholesaler had a contract and there was a nice spread. There was a $90,000 spread in the assignment. It was actually an LLC buyout, but there was a $90,000 wholesale fee. The wholesaler didn't have the 54 grand. So a connector came to me and says, I know you do private money. Can you loan out money for this transaction? So I'm like, yeah, sure. So the way we structured is we loaned 54 grand out to the estate, secured in the first position. So now we're in the first position. Once we got permission to pay the lien off, we loaned the money out, secured in the first, and then
But there's a tax lien ahead of you, though. How will you be first?
the loan was to pay the tax lien off.
Ah, I see. You were stepping into first, kick out the tax
Yep.
lien.
We slid right into first once the tax lien was gone. We got permission. Here's the money to title. Title made the payment, secured us in first. And then we executed an LLC buyout. We made 30 grand out of that 90 grand. So in 5 days. So that 54 grand was out for 5 days. We got a wire back in for 84,000 after 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a good week.
Jet trick.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. Well, I'm so proud of you. I think this will be a great time to close it out, even though I can probably talk with you forever. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
for you to talk on some creative deal. Then we will have to catch up the next time when we see each other.
We'll have to share some stories about riding ATVs in Montana and
Oh my God.
all the mayhem that ensued.
All the mayhem.
I think 8 side by sides went up the mountain. Legitimately left one up there, and really, if you want to call it 5.5, ain't that.
Legitimately. Yes. But we all got down to the mountain.
We all came back
Yeah.
whole too. Everyone was in one piece.
So thank you so much for coming in today. I had so much fun chatting with you, and I was so proud of you. You're just flourishing into this fix and flipper place and snatching out all those off market deal left and right. And awesome. Thank you for sharing all that with our audience today.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.